A beautiful morning to my fellow students of GED115, Section DD. Especially to you, Ma'am Rihanna. Good morning. I'd like to quickly introduce myself. My name is Melmar Itumanda, 20 years old, a second-year student studying elementary education. And I firmly believe that you should aim for progression, not perfection. Reading for critical understanding. In this topic, we are going to talk about the definition of critical understanding and its behaviors. Second, the relativeness of reading and critical understanding. Also, we are going to unpack the word cliché. How do we apply cliché to reading and how it helps critical understanding? Well, before I answer that and start my discussion, I encourage everyone to answer the following questions. Please feel free to pause this video and comment or share your answers down below. The target of this short activity is to let you compare your understanding before and after the discussion, which helps you to clarify things. Sounds good? Alright. Now, let's see if your answers are accurate as I go along with my discussion. Let me tackle reading real quick. Reading. Reading means a deep and active engagement with the text. Simply speaking, it is an act where you convert a text or information into knowledge from sight or touch into our brain. So, there must be a form of letter or symbols to execute reading. By the way, reading through touch is for the blind people. Alright, moving on to the things you need to know about critical understanding. Do you see the slides? Okay, it says it's not merely fault finding and censoring. Like, critical understanding is not about who is wrong or who is right, or giving severe disapproval towards someone. Basically, it is the habit of examining and weighing an idea or a thing before accepting or rejecting. To identify a person who thinks critically, then the following essentials or behaviors should be present. Number 1, suspend judgment. This is the number one essence of critical thinking. It is to suspend judgment. The essence of the suspense will lead you to inquire more, like to determine the nature of the problem. What is the problem or the question before answering or proceeding or jump into conclusion, or making a conclusion. Example, a student encountered this question in his exam. The question is, if the day before yesterday was Saturday, what day will fall in the day after tomorrow? A, Wednesday, B, Thursday, C, Friday, or D, Tuesday? You know what, guys? A critical thinker will not immediately answer in this question. He will suspend first any judgment inside his head because he needs to gather more evidence. Gather evidence first, which is the second essential of critical understanding. Gathering evidence, it means you stay focused, find solutions or some evidence that will prove that your answer is correct. And third is be more objective. Don't forget about that. When you think critically, be more objective. You should not be influenced by any personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing the facts that you are dealing with. Like, hindi dapat gawing rason ng isang tao or ng isang estudyante ang feeling lang or kung anong sinasabi ng ibang tao. Like, feeling ko ma'am, ganito yung answer, gana blah blah blah. Sabi ni ano ma'am, ganyan, ganyan. No, that's not how critical understanding works. So, yes, if you're wondering what is the answer of this question, Well, here is the solution. Or you can also consider this as evidence because, yes, he made something that leads him to the answer. Okay, if your answer is Wednesday, you're definitely correct. So, yesterday was Sunday because the day before yesterday was Saturday. So, yesterday is Sunday. If yesterday is Sunday, then that means today is Monday. Now, the day after tomorrow, so tomorrow is Tuesday. The day after tomorrow is Wednesday. So it really needs systematic and critical thinking. Yes, it really requires critical thinking because some of us people will just jump into conclusion. Like the day before yesterday was Saturday. So it is Friday or Tuesday. So it doesn't work like that. Okay, so that's one of example on how critical understanding is not just accepting random ideas nonchalantly or without thinking twice. Okay, if you were to ask Benjamin Bloom, he considers critical understanding as an intellectual ability, where an individual brings specific technical information to solve a problem. Moreover, if we are going to apply Bloom's taxonomy for critical understanding, then the following mode of operation should be adopted by your students. I'm pretty sure most of you already encountered the said operations or the taxonomy. Anyway, Bloom's taxonomy can help you produce critical thinkers just by applying these objectives to your where should we apply these objectives? Into our to our lessons or to our lesson plans. For instance, this one, analyzing. When we say analyzing, it requires gathering data, understanding it, and interpreting it or interpreting the data or information. So yes, that was Benjamin Bloom's point of view. Lastly, about critical understanding. Okay, if you're wondering where can we use this kind of ability, well, here are the example in classroom and everyday life. So yes, we have class debates, innovation, think, pair, share, drawing, riddles, coaching, investigating, teaching, parenting, job interview, and many, many more. Now, example of class debates, by the way, a student confidently and correctly explains to his peers the methods used to reach a particular conclusion of a research. Yes, that is an example of critical thinking. If he doesn't think critically, then I don't know if he's confidently correct to explain the correct or right method that will be used in their research. So yes, applicable ang critical understanding sa high school, lalong-lalo na sa college. Kasi yung mga research sa higher education na yan. Well, but in terms of elementary naman tayo, no? In terms of elementary, they can use critical understanding when making predictions or hypothesis. Meron yan sa elementary, especially sa science. Okay, I hope I explained critical understanding well as we move on to the main event of our topic, which is how can critical understanding be fostered through reading. So here are some general ideas. Claim number 1. Okay, simply speaking, this claim states that concepts or ideas are born by reading books and other printed materials. Nakakakuha daw tayo ng iba't ibang idea at konsepto habang tayo ay nagbabasa. And you can use those ideas to understand things critically. Quick example. Okay, we have different concepts of the COVID-19 virus, right? Like, others don't believe in it. Meron pang mga taong hindi naniniwala dito. Sabi nila, gawa-gawa lang daw ito ng Illuminati or masamang espiritu daw itong COVID-19. Yung iba naman, hindi daw kailangan magpa-vaccine kasi they have this strong faith to God that will protect them. At hindi daw sila kailangan hindi nila kailangan magpa-vaccine at hindi sila madadapuan. While others naman, they have this fear and they believe that yes, there is a deadly virus out there. And to prevent this is you have to get vaccinated. So those are just different concepts of COVID-19 virus or different ideas from different persons. Now, the question is, how about you guys? Now, kayo naman ang tatanungin ko. Do you think this virus is true? Is it really the cause of the million deaths in the last 2 years? You can comment down below anyway, by the way. So, if your answer is yes, well, I'm with you guys. I believe you have read tons of information about this virus locally and internationally. Diba? Not just on social media, but also from the news. Or even from the reliable sites like the World Health Organization. Diba? Ang daming information lumalabas about dito. At somehow, totoo din nangyayari kasi nararanasan natin dito mismo sa Pilipinas. Yes. So, see, we can confidently weigh situations or choose sides using the knowledge we got from reading. Yung pagbabasa lang natin sa newsfeed ng Facebook, as long it is reliable, no? Hindi lang mga random pages or mga accounts. It should be reliable. Now, when we read from those reliable sources, then we got knowledge from it. So yes, we rejected the idea of saying Illuminati or masamang espiritu ang COVID-19 virus. So, yes, that is one of the advantages of reading and have critical understanding. Okay, let's move on to the second claim. According to this, the more we understand our language, the better we understand things critically. And it says here, to improve language, we must improve our vocabulary by reading. So that is the second claim or general ideas on how critical understanding be fostered through reading. To have a more specific explanation, let us discover the word cliché. Okay, how can reading help these 5 aspects or objectives in improving critical understanding? Right. Cliché stands for knowledge of semantics, logical reasoning, insight into literary forms, skills in thinking process, and habits and attitudes. So yes, let's start with letter K. Knowledge of semantics. So when we say semantics or semantic skills, it refers to the child's ability to understand the words they possess. No? This is observable sa elementary grades, where children start to learn about the meaning of a word. Like simply the following. Box. This could be the sports, like Manny Pacquiao, no? Or the cartoon, na nilalagyan natin kung ano-ano. Next, ball. This could be the toy or the dance, and so on, so forth. Also, semantics opens the door of connoting varied words into favorable or unfavorable impressions, like how we use the names of animals to symbolize quality. Examples of favorable impressions: we have the lion, eagle, mustang. We use these animal names as an impression of speed, strength, and power. Sa unfavorable side naman, we have rat, pig, mole. Their names carry derogatory meanings. So those are just an example of semantic skills, knowing what is favorable or unfavorable impressions, or the double meanings of a single word. Now, why is this related to reading? Well, take note mga future teachers. Reading has an important role to play in expanding a student's knowledge of semantics as they read and understand the context of it at the same time. Mind you, ma'am, sir, the ability to understand the meaning of a word is very crucial in critical understanding. Okay, for example, here, if they read this in a textbook saying, Juan was given a vintage bicycle by his father. However, Pedro has a better bicycle than Juan because it has glowing hydrogen and a brazed finish. Saan sila papanig? Kung Juan ba na sino bang mas merong magandang bicycle, si Juan ba or si Pedro? So that is just an example of scenario. Okay, now you might think that this sentence or this phrase is hard for elementary students. Believe me, it is a grade 3 or 4 easy level book. Like the word glowing. Alam na nila yan. What is the meaning of glowing? Kumikinang. Hydrogen. Meron yan sa science. And so on, so forth. Okay, pero yun nga, it is inevitable, no? Hindi mapipigilan that some of your students have no idea what vintage or what glowing or hydrogen means. And so, it cancels critical understanding. Dahil hindi nila alam ang pagkakaiba nun. Iba kasi yung naiintindihan mo bawat salita, di ba? You can distinguish imprecise statement at maiiwasan mo maging lutang or making impulsive decision. Basta-basta lang magdesisyon. Ay, dito ako papanig kasi ganito. Hindi naman naiintindihan yung salita or yung sitwasyon. Diba? So, that is why knowledge of semantics is very important in critical understanding. And to improve knowledge of semantics, you have to read. Okay, next, logical reasoning. So some of the logic skills in elementary school are the paucity of opinion and argumentative materials to teach aspects or certain aspects, such as the following: determining the appropriate use of all, some, or none statements. Also, we have distinguishing fact from opinion. I believe na pagdaanan nyo na to sa elementary grades pa lang. So, I have an example here. Yes, ito. A Philippine geography book informed readers that the Philippines is near to the equator. Therefore, it is always hot. Okay, to improve your students' critical thinking, you might want to ask questions like this. Did the author mean weather conditions are always hot for all parts of the Philippines, some parts of the Philippines, or many parts of the Philippines? Bakit malamig ang Baguio? Bakit malamig ang MSU Marawi? Bakit nagpa-fog pa doon sa tindi ng lamig? See, we are using reading materials in determining the appropriate use of all, some, or none statements to be more specific and avoid hasty generalization. Marami nang nabiktima sa generalization. Quick example, the statement saying, pare-pareho lang kayo girls. Gusto nyo ng? Anong gusto ng mga girls? Guwapo. Okay. Pare-pareho lang kayo girls. Gusto nyo ng guwapo. My fellow women, is that true? Totoo ba na pare-pareho ang gusto ng isang babae? Ay, ng mga babae? Guwapo lang daw? Di ba hindi? Charot. Di ba hindi? No, not all women like handsome men or prefer handsome, good-looking men. Di ba? So, that statement is just an opinion of some men. But it is not a fact. It is not a fact because he used pare-pareho. So, he said that all girls prefer handsome men, which is not. So that is not a fact. Okay. So example lang yan, guys. Example lang yan. Let's go back to the topic. Okay? So, yes, logical reasoning. Future teachers, we have ample reading materials for teaching students reasoning tactics. I would suggest stories in Basel reading, like books that are meant for reading, like storytelling, diba? Meron yung mga scenarios dyan na pwede yung pagkukunan ng mga reasoning tactics or improve yung mga pagbibigay rason ng mga estudyante nyo. And you can also have appropriate editorial newspapers, no? Yung, when you say appropriate, yung ano lang, hindi yung masyadong pang-adult, no? Now, for example, the editorial about climate change, no? They can, they can brainstorm their ideas about editorial and make reasons. For example, why cutting trees is can cause negatively to our environment, and so on, so forth. You can also use textbooks in geography or history. Like, sa example sa history, no? Pwede nyo pagbasihan yung bakit si Dr. Jose Rizal ang naging national hero, bakit hindi si Andres Bonifacio, si Emiliano Aguinaldo, so on, so forth, diba? You can use those kind of reading materials to improve logical reasoning. So, yun ang logical reasoning. Let's move on to, insight into literary forms. So, diba, most readers expect that non-fiction materials are reliable or trustworthy. Granted, yes, pag sinabi non-fiction, ay okay yan, reliable yan. However, in reading fiction, no, kadalasan na nababasa ng mga young learners ay puros fiction. Now, in reading fiction, it requires different sort of knowledge. It's kind of different technique in reading fiction. So, paano ko nasabi yan? Well, if a person reads fiction, it will lead him to give critical reaction and also pleasure. When we say pleasure, hindi yun ang naiisip nyo, but it it will make you feel happy or kilig. So, those are just the pleasurable things na makukuha natin sa fiction. Okay, but those two depends upon one's ability to read beneath the surface. Okay? Yung hindi ba literal o matindi, dapat you can detect the use of irony or sarcasm. Meron kasi yan. And interpreting metaphors and symbolism. Again, we can dwell this back to the knowledge of semantics, where it requires the ability to understand words. So, yan. Let me give you an example. Let's relate this to our young learners, no? Kasi mga elementary students naman yung tinuturuan natin. Okay. So, reading literature for critical understanding will help them realize that the legendary story of the ant and the grasshopper is not all about the lives of an ant and the grasshopper, but it paves the way for them to have an insight that there's a time for work and a time for playing. Again, dapat alam ng estudyante kung ano ang binabasa nila, especially reading fiction. They need the guidance of a skillful teacher so that they'll begin to sense that fiction has a big idea that runs beneath the plot. Mom, sir, to be able to think outside the box, it is a sign that the child is developing his critical understanding skills. Diba? Hindi sila literal o matindi. Like, yung pagbasa ng ang langgam at si Tipaklong, hindi lang all about kung anong itsura ni langgam or ang pamumuhay ni langgam or ni Tipaklong. But it also has a big idea. Okay, so Let them read appropriate literary forms and get their insight. You'll see. Okay, next. Ayan. Dito tayo. Thinking process. Now, generally, no, I believe na future teachers na pagdaanan nyo na to sa isang course about Piaget. Yes. Generally, educators supported the early work of Piaget. He said that thinking process were a result of maturation. Like, yung matured people daw has better thinking process than young learners. Well, do you agree with Piaget? Okay, well, whatever your answer is, teachers, you might want to consider the investigation of the critical reading behaviors of elementary school children at Ohio State University. This is conducted by Ratz et al. So, and friends, yes. He indicated that thinking process can be influenced. He said if the teacher wants to guide pupils' growth in the ability to judge the authenticity of the information, she or he will select the suitable reading materials first. Ayan, I will give you an example. Let's say you have these two president biographies to be read by your students. Paano natin i-apply ang reading, ganitong klaseng reading activity, to improve your students' critical understanding? Well, you might want to ask something like this. From the two biographies, what can we conclude about their lives? What sort of a person was he or she? Or di kaya, which are facts? Which statement are opinions? Can you give us some reasons why one biography is more interesting than the other one? Ayun. Diba? Hindi lang merely reading. Meron ding pagtatanong. Ultimately, this kind of reading activity is to foster certain habits of critical understanding with a twist. Kasi again, kung pure reading lang, like you let them read at kung anong naintindihan ng bata, yun na yun, for sure, walang improvement yan. Yes, that is why we need to facilitate the young minds, future teachers. How? Paano? Well, you can serve them HOTS questions. Miss Reporter, what is HOTS questions? Mapapaso ba ang mga bata dyan? Hindi po. When we say HOTS questions, these are questions that are not answerable by simple yes or no. So again, we can influence the critical thinking skills of our student as early as possible. Okay, last na. Sa letter H, habits and attitudes. So, yes, crucial to critical thinking in reading is the habit one establishes toward printed materials or any reading materials. What I'm talking about this is the approach, no? Some students might do absorption. Kung anong sinasabi ng author, yun na yun. Or kung anong naiintindihan nila, yun na yan. Or yung iba naman, they are engaging actively in communicating process. Like questioning, imagining, and valuing. So, yes, again, be aware. Habits and attitudes are formed early and become increasingly difficult to change as one matures. So take note of that, teachers of beginning readers. It is either you guide children toward active engagement in reading, no? Or let them slip into a passive acceptance of everything they read. You choose. So again, habits and attitudes toward reading is also important in improving critical understanding. Okay, that was CLISH. Again, semantic skills, logical reasoning, insights of beneath the plot of a story, improving thinking skills through reading and HOTS questions, and lastly, habits and attitudes in reading. Those are just the main points of CLISH. Kung objective mo as a teacher is to develop critical understanding, then you might want to look for any reading materials that deals with logical reasoning, no? Hanap ka ng reading materials na nagdi-deal with logical reasoning, or di kaya unlocking different meanings of a word, or simply make them inclined to read. Kasi, again, reading builds ideas or concept. Okay, do you agree now that reading is essential in critical understanding? Good. However, we have a problem. It is the decline of reading. According to Patricia Greenfield, technology is the cause of it. Observable naman, no? Bata man o matanda, even us college student, we can't deny that our nose is stuck on our cell phone. Kakalaro, kakachat, hindi naman nire-replyan, kakascroll or kakapanood ng life hacks or kung ano-ano pa. Yes, technology improves our visual skills, but not critical understanding. Mostly not critical understanding. Kasi hindi naman bad yung technology. It's just the way we use it, no? We can prove that from a statistic last year conducted here mismo sa Philippines. So here are the numbers. Mas malaki ang frustration. Mostly they can read, no, but they can't comprehend. Kaya again, cancel critical understanding. So, what should we do? Well, for professional elementary teachers, I think they should really give their full support in depth reading programs. Like, Reading Corner, National Reading Month, no? At that time, they will focus on reading, teaching reading to their students. On the other hand, for us future educators, estudyante pa naman tayo, hindi pa tayo teachers, like license, but sooner pa, okay? Well, I am encouraging you to start an advocacy for accessible reading or make use with the technology. The 21st century are considered to be literate in technology. So, make use of technology again, like online reading hub, and so on, so forth. In my case, no, I tutor kids here in my place, specifically in reading, for only 50 pesos per hour. Unfortunately, I can't give it for free though, because I have to spend for reading materials and my time. Also, most parents here can afford it, even the less fortunate. May 4-piece naman. So, no hay problema. That is just a small step. And if you can do it for free, much better. So, ayan, share ko lang. Okay, it has been quite a long discussion. I hope you gain knowledge from it. I am Melmar. Thank you for listening. Arigatou gozaimasu.